Hi everybody. Today we're going to talk about the connection between sleep and weight gain. And I'm going to talk about this from the Ayurvedic perspective and also from some of the Western science perspective as well, and tie it all together for you. For those of you that are new to my channel, I'm Maria Gabriela, your clinical pharmacist turned Ayurveda health counselor, and I help people in perimenopause and menopause feel better in their bodies using Ayurveda, science-backed tools, and intuitive coaching so that you can celebrate this phase of life instead of dreading it. So let's dive into our topic for today. Okay, so in a previous video, I talked a little bit about how, and I think all of us know this, right? How important sleep is to us in midlife. I mean, it's important at every stage of life, but it becomes even more important with these changes. And I talked through 10 things that can affect your sleep in midlife and also some key practices for that. And so if you're interested in those videos, I'll link those here and also below. But today we're really going to be focusing on what happens to what is the sleep-weight connection and why it's so important for us to find deep sleep and also rest. So the rest and the sleep are connected, but we're mostly going to be talking about sleep today. And this is clearly explained here in this graphic, but from both the Ayurveda lens and also Western science lens, we see that when sleep is disrupted in some way, when we're not getting good enough quality of sleep or long enough sleep, enough hours of sleep, then we start seeing, and we also are seeing weight gain. These things can happen at the same time. They're also connected hormonally in our bodies in midlife. So when we have a disruption in sleep, we can see these things, right? We can see that when we eat, and so in Ayurveda, when we don't have enough sleep and we feel depleted and we're not waking up energized in the mornings, this actually starts to increase the vata in the body, so the air and ether quality. And that is already being increased during this time of life. And because of that, the body craves a grounding. Air and ether is, up here. It's very light. It's very mobile. And so the body wants to weigh itself down. And I've talked about this in the past as well. The body wants to put on weight so that it slows you down. And that is literally, we can say kapha element, which is the earth and water element. So several things happen. When we don't get enough sleep on a day-to-day basis, just let's say you have like one night of uninterrupted sleep, you can, because the body is craving that earth element, we tend to have overeating. We want more of the earth element, and earth element is literally food. And we see this in Western science with a decrease in satiation. There's two hormonal things that happen in Western science. We see increased ghrelin, which is basically a hormone that stimulates hunger. And we also see that there is a decrease in leptin, which is the hormone that signals, hey, you've had enough food to eat. So I always love how we see these overlaps in Ayurveda and Western science, because the things that I always say that Western science is trying to catch up to Ayurveda, they didn't have the same vocabulary, and we can name things more technically now, but it's still there. So when we have that decrease in satiation, we see obviously an increase in food intake. Very obvious. Very obvious that this leads us down to the weight gain piece, right? Also, and again, we all know this, if we've had a bad night of sleep, not only with one night of sleep can you have mood changes where you might feel a little bit more anxious, you feel so tired and depleted. Over time, when there's chronic sleep deprivation, this can also translate into chronic anxiety and depression as well. And with those mood changes, we might also want to bring in things that we wouldn't normally eat, like more sugar, more salt. And in Ayurveda, the salty taste and the sweet taste are two other big factors that decrease that air and ether, that vata quality in the body. And so the body is intelligent, and the body's really craving the natural sweet taste, the heaviness of that. And when we talk about natural sweet taste in Ayurveda, we're talking about things like sweet potato and rice and dates and things like this. But in our world, we're talking about chips and chocolate and soda. So again, bringing that in, it makes sense. We start seeing weight gain. The other thing is that with the decrease in the energy, we're like, I'm so tired, I don't feel like exercising. And we feel like moving less because we're so tired. And so instead of, again, decreasing in exercise and decreasing in movement, logically, that also can increase weight gain. We also see that we're going to reach for something like caffeine to keep us going. And that increase in caffeine is also going to affect our doshas. It's going to continue to increase the vata in the body. And also, unfortunately, when we start using caffeine throughout the day, that can also then reverberate back to affecting our sleep and our sleep quality. The same thing is if we use caffeine throughout the day and then drink alcohol, we're also talking about shifting the doshas out of balance and decreasing the quality of the sleep. And then also when we have sleep deprivation, again, because of this vitiation of vata, we get a decrease in the digestive fire, in the metabolism, not only at the belly level, but throughout the cells. And our capacity to digest is lower, which then can lead to undigested toxins called ama, which then can unfortunately decrease the digestive fire more and lead us to have less capacity to digest our food, which also then leads to weight gain. The other thing that isn't necessarily in this diagram per se is that, again, over time, chronically, when we're depleted and fatigued and not having good rest, the body can also become chronically stressed, and that means that we have more cortisol, and cortisol, again, this is another translation of Ayurveda. We're talking about chronic vata vitiation. Then the cortisol helps us to hang on to food, particularly, again, that the belly weight can happen more easily with higher levels of cortisol hanging around, another hormone. And so really, when we start to pull this apart, we can see how this is unfortunately like a cycle that we don't want to get into. The deprivation of sleep and then resulting in this weight gain. Again, if you want to check out those other videos talking through the sleep aspect and how we're affected in midlife and different ways that you can, some of my favorite key practices, I will link that here. If this video resonated with you, please share the video with somebody that might be interested, and also like and subscribe. Thank you so much for being here. See you next time.